Good afternoon on what is a bright sunny day. It is Friday the 18th of March. I am back in the region with a cat who is not ours and a nice hot cup of tea. And of course some parcels. So the first parcel is courtesy of the Midderlands. So I've been looking forward to receiving this one. So let's get into it, find out what is in here. I have a good idea. So this is from basically Monkey Blood Design, Glyn Seal, and he always produces good stuff. I know because I get to work on them. And what I've got here is several things. So the first thing I'm going to pull out. I don't know quite what's in here. There's quite. Okay, so what I've got is Rancid Canyons of the Floating Death Sheep, which is a scenario Glyn has written for his Midderlands setting, but it's set far away from the Midderlands. It's sort of like in the equivalent of North Africa. For the Midderlands setting, so it's quite different. So what we've got is this edition. Okay, is for Swords and Wizardry, and there's an edition for that's staple bound. That's the Dungeon Crawl Classics version. Okay. So that's perfect bound, and what else we got? That, and then that is the 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons version, again perfect bound. So it also comes with standard message from Glyn, so always nicely includes that, a region map. And clues. So you've actually got several of those. So basically, essentially, there's one of these each for each of the scenarios in effect. But the one I'm going to really look at is the Dungeon Crawl Classics version. There's nothing on the. I would say the one thing. There's nothing on the back of these to really tell you what it's about. So. That's not my. That's Glyn's decision. I would have liked to have seen something on there, but that's just me. But everything else is fine. So what we've got in here is it's a 60-odd page scenario, and it's, as you can see, there's the map of the old world. Essentially the setting for the Midderlands. So you've got the Midderlands there, and this is where the setting for the adventure is down here. And in here you will find, you will find lots of little jokes. So if you read the footnotes, okay, there are jokes in there. There are references in there. I know because I put them in there. And therefore, basically they're a little bit of in-jokes that have sort of like been running throughout all of the Midderlands titles. Glyn is very generous there when I put stuff in like that. I don't do it too often, but just enough, because it's his book after all. For example, in a more recent version of the Mid-Design, which is the fanzine that Glyn does, I invented the concept of cheese magic. No idea how it works, and he's not come back to me and asked, because I don't know. So this is essentially it's the Midderlands in the Lost World setting, and this takes place in Momoro, a fictional regional setting that takes its aesthetics from various sources. So bear in mind, it isn't a facsimile of a real place on Earth, but a car crash of different ideas. So North Africa meets the Sinai Peninsula, meets South Dakota, meets bad fantasy movies, meets UK old school RPGs. And unfortunately, what it concerns is you Memorial is really kind of the area. There's a village in there called Yarrowbone, which is known for the deliciousness of the meaty products the villagers produce from the sheep they farm in the local area, and it's sort of like it's renowned as if you're a gourmet, that's where you want to go, or you want to get meat from there if you can survive that long. But unfortunately, their meat of late has been tasting bad. Enter the adventurers, and they have to go and solve the problem. So yes, so meaty snacks. You say we've got a complete table of meaty snacks there, and there's going to be adventure plan. Then we go into basically we've got a table of how do we end up in Yarrowbone. There's a page full of ideas, so it's not bereft of okay, here's the start of the adventure, here's some ideas how to get you there. There's a full table of them. Then we get into the region itself, describing various places, and we've got a map with spoilers. Yep, in a quick glance there, describing the various areas, Yarrowbone itself, and the adventure. And it's here. I mean, obviously, so far you've seen, Glyn Seal's cartography. He's well known for his cartography. In fact, he's been won awards for his cartography, and here you begin to see his artwork as well. So if you've not sort of like come across this, because it's sort of like because he generally writes. He writes old school Renaissance content, but primarily for things like for swords and wizardry. So, so we just find this version, okay, rather than necessarily for Dungeon Crawl Classics or for 5th edition. Nevertheless, he's written something for 5th edition. Sorry, for 5th edition and Dungeon Crawl Classics. So you can see the artwork on show here. It's a lovely thumbnail portraits of various NPCs in Yarrowbone, and the various locations within the village. Okay, so more and more, and these really deserve to. Basically, these should be shown to your players as you're running this, so they get a feel of who's who and where's where, bring the place to alive a little bit. And then after the village, we get a complete description of sort of like you go out into the Badlands. So there's the reference there to South Dakota, basically at this point you begin to get sort of like go into some of the dangers, the secrets of the area and what's going on. And I'm not going to spoil those for you. I mean, basically I'm showing you, but you're really, you're going to have to sort of like show freeze the page and count all the details. But it does involve this fella. So yeah, well, I did say the title is Death involves Death Sheep. So so that should be no surprise. And further areas described in more detail for later in the scenario. Again, accompanied by this really lovely artwork. And it's all a case of essentially that Glyn has adapted these to each of the rule systems. So you've got a choice there of which version you want to play, and then it's rounded out with sort of like some NPCs. And so on for use in the scenario, and magic and stuff. So there is magic to be found as well. Not a great deal, but it is illustrated and it is there. And then we've got some playtest notes at the end. So, and also more tables, things to find in the Badlands. Things to find in the Badlands. Not this cat, because he wants to be ours. don't you? And then NPC names and stuff. And then last of all, you've really got additional hooks for adventure in the area, which extends the book a little bit further on once you've finished playing the adventure. So that is Rancid Canyons of the Floating Death Sheep, which is probably the weirdest title that Glyn has asked me to work on. In certainly terms of its actual title, I mean, you know, it's not the weirdest thing I've ever edited, but there you go. So yeah, so take you know, essentially now available. Take your choice of the Dungeon Crawl Classics version, 5th edition version, or the basically Swords and Wizardry version. And what that kind of means is that, well, they're all there's a lot of compatibility there. So Swords and Wizardry with a lot of other retro clones, and to a lesser extent, Dungeon Crawl Classics and basically 5th edition with other sort of like versions of them, if you so wish. Anyway. Hope you've enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. Okay, if you have, then please do click on the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings here in the Nook, where you will see me with a parcel and a book or game, which I will unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge. All, of course, accompanied by, well, in this case, Cat Who's Not Ours, who's come back, and a nice cup of tea. Then please do hit that subscribe button. Thanks again for watching, and we'll be back again soon with another unboxing in the Nook. Bye for now.